This is Amy Poehler. My new movie, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, is coming to theaters June 14th, and it's making me feel joy and sadness and anger, definitely some disgust, and I think a little fear. Really? But I'm also feeling these new emotions like anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui.
It's what you call the boredom.
Okay, that one was weird. It's gonna be the feel everything movie of the summer. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All2ReelToo. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Mallory, and Carta.
That's a great name. It's like, like very, regal.
I like that word.
Regal?
Regal.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a regal name. It's like, you know, you're royalty. You're very posh and scary.
It's
and,
also
baby and ginger.
And ginger. It's also, you know,
wait.
It's also very, you know, like like a young lady is growing up real fast, and you know that kind of thing. That's why I'm named that because I'm a young lady who's growing real fast.
You are. I mean, since the last time we talked, you've grown into
I've grown quite.
You've grown quite a bit into a beautiful young woman.
Yes. Unfortunately, now that means I got weird guys are trying to, you know, hit on me and stuff. But you know, whatever.
Well,
it is what it is.
That's what comes with it, man. That's just what you got to deal with. No, wait, no.
Yeah, no.
So,
No.
anyways,
shouldn't.
Anyways, today on the show we are covering a very special episode of Family Ties, the NBC sitcom from the 80s. The episode is from season 1, episode 6, and it's called "Give Your Uncle Arthur a Kiss." And Yep. The one-line synopsis on the Internet Movie Database for this episode is: Mallory is hurt and confused after a close family friend makes a pass at her.
Yeah.
There's a little more to it, but yeah. Anyways, anyways, this episode was directed by Will Mackenzie. It was written by Gary David Goldberg and Lloyd Garver, and it stars Meredith Baxter as Elyse Keaton. Michael Gross as Stephen Keaton, Michael J. Fox as Alex P. Keaton, Justine Bateman as Mallory Keaton, Tina Yothers as Jennifer Keaton, Saul Viscuso as Richard Jacobs, and David Spielberg as Arthur Press.
Oh.
Yes, I do not believe he's any relation to Steven Spielberg, but...
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, that'd have been interesting. But,
yeah.
So what were your initial thoughts here on this episode, Sesame?
It was okay. I thought they kind of played it off for laughs a little bit too much for my taste. I mean, they they did take it seriously, but it seems like it would kind of jump from taking it seriously and then kind of like making these sort of like jokey comments. It wasn't like that one episode, I forgot what show it was, where it was like, well, for example, it wasn't like the the corny Capricorn videos, like where Corny's just getting abducted like 87 times, and they make the whole thing like into a 35-minute joke.
Or it wasn't like where you had like on the Smart Guy that we covered, where it was like there was a whole like one or two other plot lines that were comical and they barely focused on this very special episode part of it that was the most important part of the episode, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, at least this was like the only really the only plot.
Yeah, because I don't think there was a B plot at all. It was just basically this.
Not really.
Yeah, because I mean, I think a lot of times with shows around this time, they didn't tend to have like a B and a C plot as much as shows tend to like more in the 90s and as time goes on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I enjoyed this episode. It's one of the more, I think, important episodes of Family Ties, which is one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. And yeah, it's interesting. It was good. That's all I'm gonna say. So what really goes down here in this episode?
So Mr. Keaton, you know, he works at a public broadcasting type of place, and they're doing like, you know, their annual fundraiser, you know, to make sure they have enough money to go for the next year. One of the guys is retiring. His name is Arthur.
Oh, he's moving to another station, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he's moving to another station. I wonder why. Maybe there's a backstory to that too. Anyway, but that's I'm getting ahead of myself. But
they're moving him around like they do priests.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if there's a whole nother subplot there. But so he's like a family friend called Uncle Arthur. So I guess he's really, really close with the family. The whole family goes there to kind of contribute in some way to the fundraiser. Everyone leaves.
Yeah, it's one of those TV telethons that they have with all the PBS stations tend to have those. Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone leaves to help with something, and then Mallory's just there by herself with this Arthur guy. The Arthur guy just starts acting really creepy towards her, like saying, like, you know, look how much you've grown, that whole type of stuff, and you know, you've turned into such a beautiful girl, or should I say, woman? And she's like, no, definitely girl. Very, very little girl, you know,
yeah, she's
like
15 years old. It's like, okay.
Oh, it's right, yeah, because I actually had to replay that back a few times to make sure I heard it correctly. I mean, even 16 is too young, but like, I'm like, oh no, she definitely said 50, and then she's like, yeah, you know, and then he's like, okay, before we, you know, she's trying to just kind of, you know, get her, you know, skate around the awkwardness of it, and she's like, okay, maybe it's time to get doing some work or whatever. And he's like, oh, before we do that, why don't you, you know, give your Uncle Arthur a hug or whatever. And so, you know, she's like, oh, okay. And then, you know, he hugs her like really, really tight. And then he kind of like pats, you know, her butt a little bit. And she's like, whoa, that was kind of weird. One quick note though about this. So far, this is 2 episodes where there's a quote uncle character, whether biological or in some symbolic way, where they keep referring to themselves as the uncle in the third person. Why are they doing this? Uncle Ned, he keeps constantly calling himself Uncle Ned. This guy keeps calling himself Uncle Arthur. Both of them have some weird addiction of some kind. Ned, it's alcohol, and with Arthur, it's underage girls, and it's just like, what the fuck?
I was around him.
I think Dad's problem's a little bit better to have, you know.
Today, I was around a majority of my nieces and nephews, and not once did I refer to myself as Uncle Mike.
Exactly. It's like, what the fuck?
A couple of them did when they referred to me, because some of them call me Uncle Mike, some of them call me Mike. I don't really care, but you just like, it's just the way it is. But it's just,
I don't care either.
Yeah. It's just funny. But I never would be like, so Bryson, that's one of my nephews. Uncle Mike wanted to talk to you today. No, I never.
It's just so, it makes things needlessly awkward and uncomfortable to do that. Like, I don't even. Like, there were a few times when I would refer to myself in a third person just as like, to see how it would sound, or just it just made me feel really uncomfortable, even just doing it to myself. Like, it's like that Sesame,
that TV show Becker. There's a character named Bob on there who always referred to himself in the third person. He'd be like, you know, like, Bob wants some coffee, you know, stuff like that and everything, and then. There was an episode, I've been watching it again, rewatching it recently, and there's an episode where Linda, one of the other characters, just says, Linda wants, you know, or Linda something, she starts referring to herself in the third person, and everybody looks at her weird, and she's like, so Bob's the only one that can do it? So it's like...
Right, exactly. That's another great show, Becker.
Yeah. It was good until the last couple of seasons, honestly. But when they... maybe we'll address that show some other time, but when they unceremoniously fired Perry Farrell from it for some reason, and Terry Farrell, sorry, not Perry Farrell. Perry Farrell's the guy from 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 that band. What's the Lollapalooza guy? The
yeah,
like Porno for Pyros or something or whatever. I don't know what it was. One of those.
Yeah, but there was also Jane's Addiction.
Jane's Addiction. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, Terry Farrell is who I meant, but I said Perry Farrell.
Oh,
yeah, but Terry Farrell was like a really good character on that show, and then they decided to she wanted to get paid more, so they let her go and they replaced her with another character, and then Bob left the show and they replaced him as well. It was just didn't have the same feel the last couple of seasons. So, yeah. But anywho, it was still decent. Back to Family Ties though. Yeah. So what's going on here in this Arthur-filled episode?
So after that, she kind of walks away and he kind of feels like embarrassed or whatever, which is hilarious because so in this episode, none of what Uncle Arthur does, I'm going to have to address him as Uncle Arthur apparently because that's his name. His full name is Uncle Arthur. So everything he does to Mallory, which is multiple things, not just this, it's always played off that he's embarrassed for what he did, not the fact that he's committed a crime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's all like, oh shucks, like I can't believe I did that. My hormones got into me. That's why I had to pat the butt of a 15-year-old girl who I call myself uncle to.
That is sadly what a lot of society teaches men is like, oh, men just have these urges, so it's like it's really the woman's fault for me, because she looks good, so it's my fault for having these. It's her fault for having those feelings, for me having those feelings. It's like so stupid.
I know, it's just crazy. And so she goes and starts talking to Alex about it to see, what he thought. And he's like, well, he probably didn't mean it that way. He's just like really affectionate. He always does stuff like that. So she kind of takes Alex's interpretation like, okay, well, that's great. I was so glad to finally be wrong about something. So then Uncle Arthur comes over the next day or that day to do something. Don't remember what. And
they were trying to help Steven write this big speech that he was going to give on air during the telethon.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to monitor his own speech about himself or something like that, or
about the station and himself, and then
that's weird.
To
listen to what someone else is going to say about you, and then you have to go edit it. Actually, why don't you say this instead? Okay, well, apparently Uncle Arthur has control issues, which now it makes more sense because that's why going after underage girls is because there's a power dynamic at play that he's apparently. And we actually learned later on about a little bit of his personal history that kind of sheds a light on some of that, but that's going further ahead. So everyone leaves again. They're in the kitchen or something, and it's just him and Mallory again, which is like, okay, this is weird. And so he apologizes to her, and he's like, hey, I didn't mean anything by that. I was just, being affectionate, and I was just kind of like, remembering when you were a kid or whatever, because sometimes people will pat someone's bottom as a kid. It's not meant as a sexual, you know what I mean? It's just
but that's
whatever,
but when somebody's 5, it's a lot different than when they're 15.
Exactly. So that, he was kind of using that as an excuse, or his sort of his reasoning. And so she's like, oh, it's no problem, whatever. So then he goes to try to hug her again, but this time he ends up kissing her on her lips. And it was this was right after you apologized for doing something inappropriate, and you were saying that the intention of said inappropriate act was different than how it came out, and then you're going to follow that up with doing an actual thing that there is no other interpretation for.
Yeah, it reminds me of the war in the Middle East. Anyway, so
exactly, Uncle Arthur is Israel, and no, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
And Mallory's Palestine. No.
Yes.
That's terrible. And so she tells Alex again, hey Alex, it happened again, but this time he kissed me. Is that normal? And he's like, no, it's actually not normal. That's there is something going on. So maybe go talk to mom about it. So then she talks to her mom. Elyse says, yeah, that happened to me too when I was around your age. A friend of the family or a relative did the same thing to me, or something similar or whatever.
Yeah, he grabbed her inappropriately or something. Yeah.
That this thing's way more common than people might think it is, and things of that nature. And she says she's gonna go talk to Arthur himself and not have her husband do it. What's his name again? I always forget his
name.
Stephen, instead of having Stephen confront him, she was going to do it herself because her reasoning was, oh, well, I'm a woman, so I'm going to be able to be more finesse about it. But then it turns out that she's like berating him in front of everyone during the telethon.
Yeah.
When they're trying to answer the phones and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Stephen's trying to talk to people about things, and all of a sudden there's like this big fight going on between Arthur and Elyse in the background. Yeah, it was funny, but
because she's like confronting him, and then she's like, and Stephen's like, "What are you doing?" It's like he kissed our daughter or something like that. And she pushes him up there. And again, it was played off for laughs. And it's like,
well, that part was, because that was funny. The thing is, it's like this didn't bother me as much as a lot of things because it is a sitcom first off, but then secondly, it's the fact that even during like tragic things going on, humor does happen, and it wasn't over the top. Really, it wasn't like they all of a sudden turned into like the Three Stooges or something. It just was kind of a fight, not like not like pies in the face or something.
No, that's what I mean. It's like played off for laughs, but it's like half of what you would get from like another show. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like there's like this. It's sort of like this. It's a lot more tame than some of the other things we've watched about that kind of thing, where it's like, whoa, type of thing. And it's so, my only issue though, is that they didn't really, they didn't really like emphasize too much about the fact that what he was doing to Mallory is that she was underage. It was that it was their daughter that he was doing it to.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, they mentioned that she was 15 and stuff, and that did kind of play a part in it, but that was like, it was more along the lines of like, maybe you got to get yourself some help or whatever, because he talked about how he got divorced and his life has been in like shambles lately, and he's been doing all kinds of crazy shit because he's like grieving from the divorce, blah, 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 that whole thing. And he's like, maybe you should get some help. But it's like, maybe you should get some help for like pedophilia issues like that. Like they didn't,
because
that,
there's one thing, like, you're having a divorce and you maybe, if you kissed a coworker or something of like a similar age, or at least an adult age, you know what I mean? Or somebody like that. But when you kiss a 15-year-old, that's a completely different thing, Like if he would have kissed Elyse or something,
right?
It'd have been a different story. But
totally,
but the issue here is the fact that Mallory is 15. It's like you can't, because I could almost not that I'd forgive it because obviously he's kissing his friend's wife if it were Elyse that he kissed, but at least Elyse is an adult,
Yeah, and he's like around the same age and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other weird thing about it too, that's even more creepy, and they did kind of play this off for laughs as well, which kind of maybe a bit uncomfortable, which again I understand it's a comedy and stuff like that, but where Alex is like, he used to give you baths when you were a baby, and she's like, well, I think he wants his old job back, and I'm like,
yeah,
cringe, like, like,
but yeah, he kind of, I think he kind of did.
I don't
yeah. But they never. Obviously they never utter the word pedophilia or pedophile in this episode. So it's like,
no. Well, actually, Mike, you got it wrong. Okay, it's a HEBA file or
whatever those idiots that'll try to explain it away.
That's a libertarian joke. Like they're like, actually, like there's like a running joke that libertarians are into like underage girls. I don't even know how true that is. But
they try to give the excuse that if they're not into kids under that are younger than teens, but it's okay to be into teens for some reason, which is still completely disgusting.
Yeah. But I always counter that with, I go, okay, well, wait a minute though. So if we're really gonna like be nitpicking about words here, like the technical, whatever. Well, when I was 17 and a half, hell, even when I was like 18, I was still seeing the pediatrician. and they were called pediatricians. They weren't called a pediatrician, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so it's like
that is true because
really...
because the word doesn't change for pediatrician.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like that doesn't the argument doesn't really fly very far, But I was just joking about that. But like technically, she was 15,
and I mean technically, when I was an
16.
adult, I drank some Pedialyte once. So I mean, I don't know if that's bad.
Well, exactly. That's actually not that bad. But it's like it's like Gatorade kind of. But
yeah.
And so they kind of play that off for laughs. Even like when they confronted him at backstage during the telethon, it was just like the sense of like, oh, I'm really embarrassed about this, and I'm really sorry, and they're like, oh, you should get yourself some help. But it was like that. It was sort of implied that the help was more like getting your life together type of help, not the fact that you're kissing underage girls. Like, you can get both kinds of help, sure. I mean, like, if you need both.
There's no major follow up or anything, and Elyse or Steven isn't like, dude, you got to get help for that. And it's like, honestly, they could have the dude arrested for kissing a 15-year-old, I think. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, he actually committed real crimes. Like,
yeah, I mean, any other. I mean, it's weird when it comes to like subjects like this, especially back then. I mean, I was a kid back then, so things like this weren't treated, I think, in the same, with the same kind of kid gloves as they are today. But, it's like it would be like, well, if he had like stabbed Mallory, they would definitely call the cops. But he kissed her, so it's okay. It's like, what the heck? Yeah.
I know. This is so... It was weird about that. Well, what's even more weird about that is that the actress who played Mallory, what's her name? Justine Bateman?
Yeah.
The sister of Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
She actually looked like she could have been like 15 for real. Like not just acting as a 15-year-old.
She may have been pretty young. I don't know how old she was at the time.
And so that just kind of made it even more like real in the sense of like, oh, like that's what that actually would look like for real. Like not someone playing the part, but like yikes, and just but just like the violation aspect of it too. And I do think that Justine Bateman did play that aspect of it too, of just like the sort of feeling of embarrassment and like not really knowing what to say or how to react to it, and just kind of feeling like talking about it would just make things even more awkward, that kind of stuff. And then sort of just breaking down and crying out of nowhere, which sometimes that's what happens when something traumatic happens to you. You just kind of hold it in for a while, and then suddenly you'll say something and a certain word will trigger it, and you'll just start bawling your eyes out or whatever. So she was kind of doing that. And it's kind of, it made like, again, like they play it off for laughs, but there were some like emotional moments in the episode too.
If I did the math right, she was like 16 at the time that they filmed this.
Okay. So then they just had a guy kiss a... Was it even legal to do that on a set?
That's what I'm wondering.
Oh my God. Well, let's do a documentary quiet on the Family Ties set.
Well, on that's the thing. Like on some of these Nickelodeon shows, like I've seen like things that like these people that were on like some YouTube channels and stuff. Like there was this girl on that Naked Brothers band show, which is a really weird name for a show anyways.
That's really weird.
The name of the band is the Naked Brothers for some reason. I think that they're a family band, but it's like weird. But this one girl on there, she literally had, I think, her first kiss in her whole life when she was like, she was under a teenage. She was like a teenage age, like maybe like 14 or something at the most. They had her kiss like this guy who was like 33, and that was literally her first kiss, not just on screen,
but
because like the actor was playing like an older teen or something, but he was actually, I guess, 33 at the time or something. Like I don't know if that's the right age, but he was at least an adult. It's like
there's so many things like that throughout the 80s, 90s, even throughout the 2000s.
Yeah,
like there is this movie called I think the Young Turks, I mean, I have issues with them, obviously, but like the Young Turks did a story, I think it was like 2 years ago, where Anna Kasparian and her husband were like, they were talking about this kind of issue or whatever, about like media and how, sometimes, when it comes to children, there's like borderline moments, like maybe
Yeah.
they shouldn't do that type of thing. And her husband was like, he's like, yeah, like there was this movie actually a long time ago called My Father the Hero or something like that.
Oh
Had
yeah.
some French. It like
It,
this said like a
it's an
14-year-old actor. Yeah.
it's an American film, but it starred Gerard Depardieu as the dad of it was what's her face from, she used to be on Grey's Anatomy. Anyways, but
Yeah, I don't know
go
her
ahead,
name.
go ahead. Yeah, I'll look it up. But yeah, go ahead and tell the story.
Well, it's just that the movie's about he's like a recent divorcee, and he's on vacation with his 14-year-old daughter who's kind of sulking around because, you know, her parents split up or whatever.
Catherine Heigl.
That's right, Captain Heigl. And so she's like, part of the plot is that she's trying to like woo like this guy who's also like vacationing. This guy's like way older than he is. I don't know if he might be a lifeguard or something, I don't remember, but he's there. And so she's trying to, you know, get his attention or whatever. So then she gets the idea to pretend that her dad is her boyfriend or husband or whatever. And then like the ongoing quote joke throughout the movie is that like everyone is like whispering about like, that's super weird, isn't it? Are they even allowed to be doing that and all this kind of stuff? And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, no one at any point has called the cops at any point in this movie. Like, if you're all whispering about it, if you're all like gossiping about it, how come no one's picked up the phone and be like, hey, I think there's like a 50-year-old dude here who's like dating like a 14-year-old. Maybe like you should come and interview them. Like, you know,
this movie was made twice as well. Gerard Depardieu was in it. They made it in as a French language film, and then they made it again as an English language film.
Yeah,
like 3 years
later. Same actor, French guy playing it twice. And then there's this scene. Oh God, so cringe. I remember seeing this movie actually when it came out.
Yeah,
I barely remembered any of it until they started talking about it, and I was like remembering like tiny little bits and pieces. Like I remember at one point the guy like got like a cramp in his leg when he was like swimming in the ocean or something, like I don't remember something.
Yeah,
she had to like save him. I remember like tiny little bits of things because frankly I was not interested in the plot. I thought it was stupid. I guess I just didn't care. And my parents probably forced me to watch it with them because they couldn't find a babysitter or whatever, you know, type of thing. And so, but there's this scene where they're doing like a talent show or something, and he goes on a piano and he plays his song called "Thank Heaven for Little Girls." I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm like, why are they doing this? Like, it's just so. But like again, they played this shit up for laughs. Like they knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm. Like me as a kid, it just went over my head type of thing. But like now as an adult, I'm like, there's no way they didn't know that they weren't implying something. You know what I mean? Like that's just
well, I mean, it was like, but and then there's like, I mean, that thing, it was like even part of the plot. But like then there's also like, you know, like that sleepover movie we covered once where some of the actors in that were like close to 30 years old, like kissing teenage girls. So yeah.
Yancey and the, what was it called? Yancey and the, what band was it we came up with? I don't remember.
I don't remember. But still.
We got the sleepover. We got the teacher who's like in his 30s. They were just graduating 8th grade, going into high school. It's summer. It was like the last day of school, and they end up getting fake IDs or something to sneak into a club, and then they meet their teacher there, and the teacher doesn't even like recognize, you know, the students because they were just dressed like slightly different, which is like, okay, that's like that whole superhero thing. It's like, oh, you got a little thing around your eyes, I can't tell that you're Clark Kent actually. You're not Clark Kent, whatever, you know. And so, but then like when he does recognize her, he's still like, wow, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's crazy stuff like that all over Hollywood. It's just, so it's like, I guess, you know, something like Quiet on Set is a good thing that they are able to bring light to some of that. But like this plot in, to think about it though, this Uncle Arthur, I mean, David Spielberg was born in 1939, mm-hmm. and Justine Bateman was born in 1966. And
so that would be what, 27 years older or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So
I'm not good at math.
Me either. So it's like, yeah.
That's fucking weird though, man. People age
27
way
years.
More hardcore.
Yeah.
People age way more hardcore back than they do now. I was thinking that guy was like at least 40 years older than she So, you know what I mean? Like people age just so.
But regardless,
worse,
he was going
at
30 years older than her, so it's like insane.
I know. And so, but like, yeah, like I like what the quiet on set stuff. Like I've been reading stuff where like there's like a serious debate now kind of brewing within Hollywood of whether just to not even have child actors at all anymore. Just like don't even just have them. Like because there's so many problems that come along with it that it's even worth doing it if like there's gonna be harm that could be perpetrated against them. You know what I mean? Like just make AI kids or some shit and just throw them. Then again, no, that would be bad too because that was like, taking over. So
if I did the math right here on my calculator, David Spielberg was 43 when this episode was filmed. Only 43.
That's so fucked up. I'm 3 years younger than that guy, and he looks like
I'm older than
60s. Like, damn. I'm saying, man, people aged way more poorly back then. Like,
I know.
I don't know what it is, but maybe like people talk about how bad our diets are now. Maybe there's like something in our food that's like actually keeping us alive longer, or like like secret ingredients or.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the parents on there, both Michael Gross and Meredith Baxter, who have the same exact birthday as we discussed in our previous Family Ties episode, were 35 at the time this was filmed.
That is insane. That is so fucking wild. Then again, though, too, cameras weren't as sophisticated as they are now with either, though, so that could be part of it, where you just kind of look older just by the technology that you got now. So there's that to kind of take into account,
Yeah. It's just so funny, and plus, I mean, there's also the idea that like people dress different back then too. Like, I mean, I've been watching some true crime stuff lately, and they had some true crimes that took place in the 80s or the 90s, and just the way people dressed back then. And I'm like looking at these like mothers of somebody that their kid was missing or whatever, and the mother looks like she's like 50, but she was like 25. So it's just like
wow.
It was like, oh wow. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, so basically that's all that happens in this episode. So
one more thing. It reminded me too. So there was a movie called Spy High, which we did review a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Where one of the main characters is basically cyber dating a woman who's like 28 years old and he's like 16. And she's also a spy for the government, mind you. And so yeah, I'm not sure that was part of her mission, was to like talk to some random kid on the line and send him video games to play a demo of or whatever.
It's insane. I was looking up some trivia about this episode, and Justine Bateman was like a big outspoken person, and still is, about the Me Too movement. And she said she called this a landmark episode because it handled a sensitive topic in 1982, long before the Me Too movement of 2017.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, she brought this up when she was talking about Me Too stuff, which, I mean, it's good that this came out early, but it's too bad that people didn't look into this in the real world and see people like Harvey Weinstein and others doing the shit that they were doing to people, so
yeah, totally.
Not to mention, like right around this time, you had Brian Peck, who was like one of the focal points of Quiet on Set, working on another show that was similar to this called Growing Pains. So it's like,
yeah,
and
a lot of different shows too. Crazy, man, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, so it's crazy, and I mean, so do you think that that it made its point well? The episode, the very special aspect
I think so. For its time period, like 1982, definitely, because like you said, the Me Too movement didn't start off until 2017, which is 35 years after this episode aired. So
which is the same amount of time as Michael Gross had been alive at the point that they filmed this episode.
Right,
35 years.
Who's Michael Gross again? Oh, Steven?
Yeah. He was 35 when he was 35 when they filmed this, and so was.
I thought you meant the character was 35. I didn't know the actor was 30. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
Yeah, he and Meredith Baxter were both 35 when they filmed this, because they both have the same exact birthday.
They're in their late 40s.
Yeah,
like I was thinking like 47. Like like 48 maybe, like.
But still, the amount of time that passed between this episode and the Me Too movement is the same amount of time that Michael Gross had been alive when they filmed this. So yeah, that's just crazy.
They doubled their lifespan between that. Yeah, like it's like
it took from when Michael Gross was 35 to when he was 70. Yeah.
God, that's so crazy. But yeah, I think it was good. Like I said, like when they play it for laughs, sure, but like it was not over the top. It was not like too cringy. It was they kind of had to do it a little bit because that was just the nature of shows back then. That when it came to serious topics for like a comedy, you could only be too serious. You had to at least throw in some comedy. You couldn't just have like
because the
Degrassi High episode where like there's all kinds of shit happening.
Like we've said in previous very special episodes, this is a sitcom, so it's not like it is a comedy show. It's not like a drama where you could be completely serious in a like episode of Dawson's Creek or 90210 or Degrassi, but you can't in something like this or Saved by the Bell or whatever. So yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Any final thoughts here?
No, not really.
Okay. So, folks, be sure to, like and share this episode anywhere you can. Give us a 5-star review on the Apple Podcast and the Spotify and whatever else there is that you can do that on. Just be sure to share with your friends. And, we have merch. You know that?
Yeah.
We have merchandise for the show. Yes. You know that?
I know.
You do?
That we have merch. I think so.
Where can people find it?
We should do some new merch.
Yeah, we should.
Where we give advice because we're an advice podcast now, according to one of our fans, and so we can give like bits of advice on like a T-shirt or like a coffee mug or something like that. Or, I got some advice right now.
What's that?
Wear suntan lotion if you're outside the sun a lot. Okay, it's important.
Yes.
Wear suntan lotion.
Yeah, it's like that one song that graduation speech song or whatever that came out a long time ago. So
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the song. It was something about suntan. But you can find our merch on our TeePublic store. It's the Cullen Park store on TeePublic. We've got lots of cool stuff on there. Also, we have a Patreon. Yes, we do. We have a Patreon. And you can help support the show there, too. The links for both the TeePublic and the Patreon are in our show notes or at all2reeltoo.com, which is another place you can go to find information about our show. Also, a good way to help spread the word about our show is just go on Facebook, tell people to, listen to us. Go, if you see somebody walking down the street, get out of your car, just leave it wherever it is, and walk up to them and be like, hey, you got to listen to All2ReelToo. Your car might get hit or whatever, but that's okay because our wait, don't do that.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
Not really. Enough.
No, don't do that, folks. Don't.
Yeah,
I don't want to be responsible for your car getting hurt or a person or a dog or a pigeon.
Yeah. Especially a
pigeon. So, do that. But if you want to, buy a billboard in the downtown of your city that says listen to All2ReelToo and check us out at all2reeltoo.com. Those are some things you can do to help us. Write your Congress people.
Well,
wait.
I'm not sure about that one, but
I mean, they never answer anybody without except for a boilerplate, form letter. But anyways, of
course. Yeah. We're very interested in what you have to say. Thank you for reaching out to me.
But if you want to, and if you do need advice from us, send us your questions to mike@cullenpark.com, and maybe we'll answer them in a future episode. We can give you our advice, but you don't have to take it, and you probably shouldn't. And
because neither of us are qualified to give advice.
Not at all. I just told people to abandon their cars in the middle of the road and tell people to listen to our podcast. So I'm just saying, So anyways, folks, be good to each other. Don't be a troll on the internet because those are bad. And until next time, folks, just remember this: I love you. Uncle Arthur is a creep.
Yeah.
Sesame loves you. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All2ReelToo podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.